Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first online session of Foundations of Statistics using R. My name is Kristen Sosulski. It's great to virtually see you all here, so welcome. Um, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of what we'll be doing today. And also, I want to make sure that you can hear me. So just as a quick test, can somebody just write like yes in the text chat if you can hear me? Thanks, John. Very reassuring. Okay, Bill, Sandra, Kevin. All right. Um, So I wanted to just go over quickly like how we're going to communicate in this online space, which is GoToTraining. I'm sure many of you had experience or have had experience using synchronous meeting tools like Skype or GoToTraining, WebEx, Zoom even. And this is really our chance to get to know each other and to practice and learn more about coding in R, the programming language for this course. And to do that on kind of, at least 3 times throughout this course before we meet in person. So what I like to do is just review some just basics about how we can communicate most effectively in this environment. So the idea here is that I'm not just going to be kind of talking the whole time and you're just going to be listening. Like what I like to be doing ideally is for us to be having more of a conversation. I might do more of a mini lecture, and then you will be kind of challenged to do small problems and report your results back to me. And we'll use the text chat. I'm sorry if there's folks that cannot hear. Just want to do another, okay, log off and log back in is what people are saying. So if you can hear me, that's wonderful. And I hope you can log back in and log back out I'm just reading the text chat as as I'm talking here. So we'll start by just making sure that you mute each other, that you mute your microphone. And a few of you, I sent you like a private chat just to go ahead and mute yourself. So it seems like everybody's been able to achieve that already. But there is this little mute button here that you can just make sure that you're muted. So if your microphone looks red, then you're muted. If it's not red, if it's green, then you probably aren't muted, and we could probably hear your dog barking in the background. So we just want to kind of avoid that. Great. So the next thing is, I asked you before if you can hear me, type yes in the text chat, and many of you have done that already, so thank you. So this is going to be one mode in which we can communicate, is using this text chat. I think we've all got a little bit of practice already doing that. You can go ahead and type yes, thank you, Robin, thank you, Christine, Kelly, hi, welcome. Wonderful. And so as we go through this class, please at any point, if you have questions, just type them in the text chat. I might not be able to get to them right away, but I'm pretty good at the multitasking. I've been teaching in this format for a very long time, since 2004. I've been teaching in a virtual online environment, like similar to this one, GoToTraining, in addition to, of course, face-to-face teaching, and all at NYU. So we've been kind of pioneers in this space of online education, and we've been doing it since, I think, something known as educational television was in existence in the 1950s, and have really pioneered different modes and modalities for teaching and learning. And now we're really at the 2.0 of distance education, or maybe the 3.0, I'm not sure, but different ways to all of us be able to meet together from different locations and discuss our work, and not only have to do that asynchronously. So a synchronous component to this course is really important, especially for those of us that may be learning something new. So please at any point use the online discussions, this text chat, and to ask questions. And so Christine asked a question, so I'll point everybody's attention to the text chat. Are we allowed to join more than one of these sessions? Yes, you can join. There's 9 of them. You can join all 9. I suggest that you make sure you pick one that's labeled session 1, session 2, and session 3, just so it covers different content. But you are welcome to join as many as you can. I think I have up to 200 people can join, and we don't have that many people in this class. So yes, of course. And I think that's amazing if you want to join more than the 3 required ones. AV check. So if you are going to be using a camera, just make sure, like, look around your space right now, make sure everything is kind of like appropriate for others to see, that your image, is centered. I can turn my camera on right now just so you can kind of see me. Hi. So I'm teaching from my loft right now, and what happens in GoToTraining is that when I am on camera, you don't see the slides at all, probably, especially if you're from an app, using this from an app. And so I find that it could be a little bit distracting to see my image on screen, and then also maybe not be able to see some of the other assets that I'm showing. So I usually turn it off, but just wanted to say hi. This is what I look like when I'm remote teaching. And feel free, as we go around the room, which we will, the virtual room, and introduce ourselves, to just turn on your camera if you feel comfortable, because we'd love to place a face with a name. Okay, so I'm going to turn mine off for now and not show you my LinkedIn profile, but go back to the PowerPoint. There we go. And so if you want to enable your webcam, you just basically choose the share webcam option. That should be pretty straightforward. And I will make sure that I enable that on my end so I could also see your webcam. In terms of speaking during class, I really encourage it. So right now, I kind of have a democratic way of running these online sessions where I don't mute you, I ask you to mute yourself. But I do have the power to, if we hear somebody's dog barking or something and it's really distracting, I will mute everybody. But I prefer if you kind of have control over that. So if you want to say something, please use the raised hand. You'll see here, there's the hand icon. Please raise your hand and then I can call on you. That's a great way if you want to, and it's easier sometimes if you just ask your question verbally rather than in a text chat. But if it's something that you're don't feel like, interrupting or, contributing verbally, and you just want to ask the question via text chat, that's completely fine. Okay, so there's 2 kind of modalities for this. It's kind of different than in a face-to-face class, right? Because you wouldn't necessarily have this kind of back channel. So I think it's pretty cool. All right, now on to the real stuff. Now we have a sense of how to communicate, and we'll even practice doing that. I want to learn more about you and your experience, not just a little bit more about your background, maybe the industry that you work in, and your experience in R or programming in general, to see how much you've progressed in the whole 4 days that you had since this course opened. In terms of lessons 1 and 2, and don't worry if you haven't started much. That's completely fine. I'll explain kind of some of my expectations around that. I want to provide you a basic overview of R, and I'll do that today, and an opportunity to practice. So these sessions, generally you should definitely have R installed and R Studio installed, and then expect to do some exercises. And then, of course, the big part of these sessions is to answer your questions. So I will do as best as I can. And I've been coding for a very long time, but there's still questions that I can't answer. So I promise you that, you will definitely stump me at some points. And I promise you I probably will stump you at some points. But there's definitely a lot of opportunity to have dialogue and talk about coding, not just do coding. All right. Any questions at this point? So a question I get all the time is, will this session be recorded? And so, yes, it will be. Alex, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, it was a mistake. Sorry about that. I just pressed that.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Okay. So
yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's totally okay. So these sessions are, again, meant to also be informal. So there's really no pretense to these. This is really, we can think of it as a meetup of sorts. So the first thing that I would like you to do is complete this survey. Now I have the link here, but I also, under the materials tab, you can find something called brief survey. If you click on that, I'm just going to ask you a few questions which are listed here, and I'd like you to, answer them as honestly as possible. And then I'm going to present the results back to the class. Okay, so I just want to have a sense of kind of where everybody is. And so I just encourage you to take less than 5 minutes to complete this survey. And I'll even set a timer just so we don't waste much time. Oops. So just make sure you can click the brief survey right here. And I'll give us, no more than 5 minutes to do this. In the meanwhile, I will go to the survey. Ricardo, do you have a question?
Yes, Kristen, thank you so much for the class. It's nice to finally meet you.
You too.
Can you go back to so I can see the link? It's not letting me click on the embedded link that you had, so I'm just trying to type it in directly.
Can you go to the materials tab and go to training?
Yeah, I can do that. Is it embedded in that too?
Yeah, it just says brief survey.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Samar, did you have a question?
Where is...
Samar, your microphone's muted. I just wanted to know if you had a question.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was speaking on mute. Sorry. So yeah, I had a question about you said some practices that we do as part of this session. So
Yes.
are we supposed to install R before this? Because this might be something I missed out on.
Oh, yeah, you should probably do that.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So you want R and R Studio, if you can kind of get that done.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so I just encourage you to finish up if you can. Oh, Natalia, did you get the link to the survey? I just looked at the chat. Yes? Okay. Great. All right. So I would say let's rejoin at this moment. If you're still filling it out, that's okay. But try to submit soon. And I'll refresh the, so I can see who submitted because people put their names here. And that's not the part that we'll look at. So what we're looking now is at the aggregated responses of the class. And so I like to just kind of share this. So let's look at, so as a class right now, just, out of 20 people that have responded, you can see that like close to 15 have completed just going through session 1, maybe not the assignment due for session 1, but just a session 1 from our fundamentals, which is one of the lessons in NYU classes. We have about a quarter of the people here have gone through session 2, and just one person that's gone through session 3. And then we have about 6 people that haven't completed anything. So that's completely fine. I would just say when you attend the next online meeting, it would be good to have gone through sessions 1, 2, and 3. Today we'll be talking about content from sessions 1 and 2. Okay, it's not like you're missing out on anything. And you've only had a big 4 days to do work. So it's just that the more you're able to do, the more you'll get out of it. But I understand that we also all learn differently. So for some, it may be easier to have like a brief overview from not just a video of me talking, but maybe me in this kind of live way. So figure out what works for you. And that's why we have these different modalities, which have assignments that you completed. So you can see that, only half of us right now have completed assignment 1 and way less for any of the other assignments. So if you're not in that boat, you can feel assured that you're in maybe the other 50% that hasn't completed any assignments. This I like to show because I think it's very interesting. Describe your prior knowledge of programming. And we can see that so about 40% of the class is new to coding. So if you're in that 40%, know that you're in company, right, with others that would be new to programming. And this course is completely designed for anyone, no matter if you've been coding for a while or this is your first language that you're learning. Okay, so I've written in a way that you can extend your knowledge. Because R is a little tricky if you've started in Java or another programming language. So there'll still be stuff for you to learn if you don't know R already. And then we see that about a quarter of you have taken 1 to 3 coding classes, but still consider themselves a novice. We have another quarter who's know enough to be dangerous. All right. So when you're thinking about your capstone teams and stuff like that, it's good to get one of these from the 25%. Advanced coders. So no one in this class considers them an advanced intermediate coder, but 10% of the class, so that seems like 2 people out of the 20, consider them a coder by trade and profession. So good to know there. And so I'm gonna ask that that 10% in the class right now that you help all of us out. In the sense that when people have questions, like you should definitely share your knowledge and expertise with the class. I mean, this is again meant to be more of a learning community than a competitive session. So let's be supportive. And prior to this course, what was your experience with R? And this is what I think is interesting. And again, I haven't looked at this. I'm just looking at this for the first time, just you and I. We don't have like an expert user of R. I could teach this course. So so for those of you that might have thought like, oh, everybody's going to know R except me, that's totally not the case, and it's never the case, right? So we have about 55% where this is their first introduction to R, so over maybe 11 people. Somewhat familiar, 30%, familiar, used it a few times, but we don't have any frequent users here. So hopefully then this course will be really valuable to you because maybe you'll move into that frequent user category and find some interesting use cases. There's at least 2 courses in the program that use R, if not more. So you'll definitely be able to put your skills to work. I'm going to just check the text chat right here, see if you have any comments on what we're looking at. And what programming languages do you know already? So this is interesting. It's not going to give us a great metric because people could select more than one. And but just to see kind of like, obviously, like this is pretty, Python is a very popular programming language, and so it's that and SQL are like the most popular, and including R, and so that's why we probably see that. But you can see the range of what anybody can consider a programming language, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you're interested, go to Wikipedia and like search programming languages, and you'll just see like hundreds. What questions do you have? People don't have that many questions. That's fine. None at this time. Just looking to dive in. Why learn R over other languages? Well, I mean, it's one of the most popular languages, I think, for data analysis, for machine learning, for modeling, for statistical analysis. And so it's great to have that as part of your toolkit, and it's very extensible. And R is made for working with data. It's kind of like pandas for, if you're a Python programmer. It has a lot of capabilities. It has a superior graphing package for visualization of the data, and very extensible in terms of the set of modeling and data analysis packages. So, and if you don't know what I mean by packages, you're going to know it come session 2. And then somebody says, I'm new to R, including in general level proficiency. So whoever this person is, I hope that I kind of answered that in the sense of, maybe I didn't answer it, excuse me. I think for you to be very proficient in the sense that you could be able to look at a piece of R code and have a sense of what's going on. And if you don't know exactly what's going on, that you would know how to find that information. So it's not only understanding the syntax and the kind of grammar of coding in R, but also to understand that where you find information when you don't know exactly what's going on, and to become resourceful in understanding the R community and the resources available for finding information out. You will have another course that will build on this course, in addition to the statistics training that you'll be doing in the second half of this course with Professor Peter Lachner. So you'll have plenty of time to practice, and so I would say that you'll be able to do some, regression analysis by the end of this course. So everything from knowing how the coding language works to being able to visualize and model data. So that's pretty cool, right? I think that's pretty cool. It's very fundamental to this program and essential. So I believe it will be a firm foundation for you. Hope that answers whoever asked that question. And if not, tell us. We'll make sure that it happens for you if you put the time in. All right. So I wanted to tell you two things about me. Nothing big, but just a little bit about me, your professor. When we meet in person, I believe it's May 17th. We don't spend too much time on these kind of introductions, just because I want to make sure that you're getting the most time of learning. But just so you have a little sense about me, if you haven't Googled me already, professor at Stern. I am director of a lab that I run there called the Learning Science Lab. And the Learning Science Lab is responsible for the learning architecture, the learning design, the visual design, and production of all online courses at Stern, completely fully online courses, not like this one. This is a little bit different, like a hybrid. So we offer certificate courses. We're doing degrees that are fully online. And this is a big endeavor. And so we'd like to do it and design education using technology very purposefully. So we really care about the design of the content, how that looks and feels, and the experience of the learners. And so I run a team of learning scientists and technologists that help us do that. And so it's a big tech focus, it's a big education focus and learning science focus. And my other role is as an associate professor of information systems. So usually at Stern, you'll find that every professor is doing 12 million things. I'm not to be excluded. So as a professor, I teach several courses. My area is in technology, business, analytics, and specifically analytics related to learning and visualization of data. And so that's a course that I teach at Stern, and one that I will be teaching for this program. So you'll have me again. So that'll be great. And in Shanghai, I will be teaching the data visualization course as well. And you'll be able to use some of the skills that you learn in this class to visualize data in R. And in between, before I kind of came to Stern as a professor, so we're just kind of backing up in this timeline, I spent a lot of time, about 7 years at Columbia University. I was running leading several education initiatives and projects, using digital technology for higher education courses at Columbia University. And simultaneously, I was studying and getting my doctorate there. And before that, I was a student at Stern as an undergraduate in information systems, the same department that I teach in. And along the way, I've done consulting and other types of work. But this is the most straightforward story I can tell you now. A book that you'll read for my data visualization course is this one, Data Visualization Made Simple, Insights into Becoming Visual. This has been a piece of work that I've been laboring over for many years, and just came out this September, and honored that I won this Best Business Reference book. So hopefully you'll be reading this as part of my course, and I'm just excited to share that with you. So that's just a little bit about me and my background. But I want all of us to learn about each other and where we're from. And so I thought we would do this by going around the room, and I'll just call on your name, and you can say, hey, my name is Kristen, and I'm in New York right now, and I'm a professor, and really excited about this class and hoping to learn X, Y, and Z. So something really kind of brief, but this gives us something memorable about you. It might be the location, it might be something that you do, your work. So please, if you can, use your microphone and maybe even your camera so we can put a face with a name, but you don't have to, of course. So I will start with Alex, just because you're first in my list. So would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you in 20 seconds?
Okay, this is Alex O. Yeah, my name is Maya, and I'm currently in Austin. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. So I'm here in Austin, Texas, and I'm a CTO architect in SunGuard Availability Services. That the company is mostly providing cloud service and recovery service to medium-sized companies, and I'm very excited to learn joining this course because I just started studying the machine learning, all that kind of things a year ago, and I'm very fascinated, and I'd like to have some depth skill for that. So yeah, and very nice to meet you all, guys, and thank you.
Great, Alex. Great to meet you. Alex from Austin, correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right. That's how I'll remember you. Okay, Anand.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Anand Archer. I live and work in New York City. I am currently work as a credit analyst covering U.S. residential mortgage-backed securities and asset-backed securities. These are fixed income bonds. Work for a firm called Stone Harbor Investment Partners. With regards to experience with R, I have taken some online courses, and I would fall in the category where you can say I know enough to be dangerous. So basically, my kind of goal and thinking is that able to do this program and get some insights on the new technology in predictive analytics and apply those technology to what I do right now. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and looking forward to meet you all in person.
All right. Nice to meet you. And enough to be dangerous. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Anubhav. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
No, it's fine. It's a tough name. So even I asked my parents why.
Sosulski is my last name. Okay, that's a tough one. So I totally get it.
So hi everyone. My name is Anubhav. You can call me Anu. if you would like. I'm based out of Central Jersey, Edison to be precise. I work for a specialty materials company that specializes in the production, manufacturing, research of electronic assembly materials. I work there as the manager for business intelligence and analytics, and my job is to look into new technologies. And as a department, we need to take the company into new areas. The idea behind taking this course is to basically drive analytics-based decisions, so that we can do this and advance the company, at a much faster and a more sound fashion. And that's about me.
Okay, so Anu from Edison, New Jersey. I'm from Central Jersey, so I know exactly where that is.
Great.
Great to meet you. Okay, next we have Bill.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Sorry I couldn't get the webcam up, but my name's Bill. I currently work at Goldman Sachs, been there for the past 5 years, currently manage the global derivatives disclosure team. So we're responsible for anything derivative related coming through the firm. We have to report to the Fed, and we're also responsible for making sure that the right balances get into the 10Q, 10Ks for financials. Prior to that, I was at Deloitte & Touche for 5 years as well. I was on the audit side of the house, primarily serving financial companies. And then before my corporate America transition, I was actually in the Marine Corps for 8 years.
Oh, wonderful, Bill. So where are you calling in from?
So I'm actually in Montclair, New Jersey.
Oh, nice, nice. I know where that is as well, being from Jersey. All right, Bill. Thank you. Next up, we have Christine. Getting a little static, Christine. Okay, so Christine, we'll come back to you. So if you want to just like fix your audio, that's fine, or even text your introduction to the chat, and then we'll definitely come back to you. Christopher.
This is Christopher Latanzia, or is there another Christopher?
Oh, yeah, I was talking to you, actually, yeah. Latanzia, okay. Yep.
I'm calling out of New York. I work in Manhattan, live in Brooklyn. I work for Credit Suisse. They're an investment bank. I'm in their compliance function. I do some data analytics with them. Mostly it's Excel-based or some SQL-based stuff, writing macros, automating for them, that kind of stuff. And then just doing ad hoc stuff if they need something done in Tableau or something like that. So I have some experience with like SQL, building like Tableau dashboards and stuff like that. But I don't have a ton of experience with like data analytics that itself. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of this course, to eventually kind of pivot my career more towards that versus kind of a BA type role, which I'm doing now, business analyst type role that I'm doing now.
Got it. Well, welcome. Nice to meet you. Next up, we have Fru Krishna.
Hi, guys. You able to hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. And hello, Professor, and hello, friends. My name is Krishna. The FNU stands for First Name Unavailable. So it's not part of my name. Technically, that's my legal name. So you can call me Krishna. And I live and work out of Denver, Colorado, and I'm currently working in Charles Schwab as a leadership in the leadership team for Schwab Intelligent Portfolio or robo-advising. You might have heard about that.
Yeah.
And I have been mostly on the technical side since 2016, 2017, and my current work is mostly prioritization of work and looking out for figuring out what features should be implemented next on the Schwab Intelligent Portfolio platform. So that's what I do. And I've been part of a few machine learning projects before I came into this project. So I did not get any chance to write any algorithm specifically, but that's where all my interest came in from, learning more about business analytics and data analytics. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Krishna. And robo-advising is a very, very interesting field. I'm sure that we'll want to learn more from you about that. That's awesome.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jeremiah Williams is next up.
Hi, so I go by Jeremy most of the time. I live in Virginia, Fredericksburg right now. I work in Arlington. I'm currently a government employee. I do data management, making sure that we get deliveries of the data we're requesting and that it's all complete, which it's usually not. Prior to this, I was doing, for 2.5 years, I was doing affordability, where we were modeling and predicting the Joint Strike Fighter out to 2072 for cost and reliability. I have a little bit of experience with R, but mostly just fixing little pieces within it. It was pretty much a GUI, and then I've been learning Python.
Nice. Well, great to meet you, Jeremy. Next up, there's John Haslanger.
Hi. Good afternoon and good morning to everybody if you're on the other side of the world. My name's John Haslanger. I currently work for Schlumberger, which is a service company in upstream oil and gas. I'm with their marketing and technology team. My job title is actually product champion, which is more commonly known as a product manager, product line manager. My experience with analytics has mostly been limited to some Excel and Tableau and Power BI type based solutions, but from this class and this whole program, my objectives are to really get a better understanding of how to enable analytics and enable analytics-based decisions in oil and gas. It's a fairly heavily regulated industry, so there's a unique set of challenges when it comes to working with and moving and even capturing data. So it's really quite interesting to me when you get into the weeds of it.
Gosh, absolutely. Well, welcome. Next up, we have Kelly. Oh, Kelly is if I could direct everybody's attention to the chat. She's in the airport right now, and she lives and works in Richmond. And you could read the rest in terms of where she's working on a very interesting new CRM project, sharing about that. Well, Kelly, welcome. Thanks so much for sharing a little bit about you and your work and even your location now. Welcome. All right, we'll move on to Kevin McGee.
Hey guys, my name is Kevin. I'm from a little town in Texas, if you can't hear it from my accent. I'm right between Houston and Dallas. I've done work in the materials handling industry for a long time. I do product design for a small foundry that really specializes in making diverter valves and rotary feeders and things like that. But I'm really trying to do something different. I'm making a massive effort to change my career completely. I'm also in the MSF program at Georgetown right now, about halfway through with that. And I'm hoping maybe to get into consulting. It's kind of the direction I'd like to go in the Dallas or Houston area one day. So I think this program will really help me move that direction.
Well, that's great. That's great. What's the MSF program?
Master of Science in Finance.
Oh, okay. Great. Great.
It's real similar to this program. It's pretty neat. So I'm not new to this format of program, but I'm totally new to analytics. So here we go.
Here we go. All right. Welcome. Next up, we have Natalia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalia Faliva. I'm based in New York City. I work in media advertising industry at a company called Xandr Media, which is a division within AT&T, formerly known AT&T Advertising and Analytics, lately rebranded to Xandr Media. And prior to that, also known as DirecTV, which is probably the most known name of the television distribution platform. So I'm a senior manager in our sales systems and operations team. I worked on a number of initiatives to improve sales systems for our traditional linear television, then moved into digital, dynamic ad streaming, and now I work on the addressable product on the DirecTV platform. As a company, we plays a huge role on big data, analytics. In my recent roles, I haven't had a chance to get very much involved. That's why I'm taking this course. Really excited to learn programming and additional skills so I can hopefully transition into a different role in my career. Excited to meet everyone.
Really nice to meet you, Natalia. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ricardo.
Oh man, let's put that one to bed right away. You guys can call me Ricky or Rick. My mom
All
calls me
right.
Rick when I'm in trouble. So nice
I'm
to
just
meet you.
using your formal names that's listed here. So
No, absolutely. Great to meet you. Great to meet everybody else. I'm checking in from Northern California. I'm a pilot with United Airlines. I fly to San Francisco International on the 737 platform. I've been with United going on year 4. Prior to that, I was an Air Force pilot. I spent 15 years on active duty, flying mobility and special operations missions. I deployed 11 times and got to see all the best parts of the world. Experience with R is very limited. I took an intro to code class at Berkeley during my MBA. And yeah, not even anything close to being dangerous. Very motivated for this class. I think business analytics is the key moving forward. I've found I'm a very pragmatic person, and I like having the data to make better business decisions. So excited to be here.
awesome. Nice to meet you, Ricky. Next up, we have Robin.
Hey guys, how you doing? So I'm starting in from sunny Sydney. So it's Friday afternoon over here. So I'm currently sat at my desk actually. So just a quick one about me. So I currently work for a company called Telstra. So we're Australia's largest telco, and I run a strategy planning team. And I've probably been in strategy my whole career. So started off in management consulting back in the UK. And then moved out to Australia about 9 years ago. So I'm, one of those typical strategy people, really good in PowerPoint, really good in Excel. And when it comes to kind of the more technical side, complete beginner. But I've done projects where I've worked with a lot of data guys, and that's definitely the way, most industries are going. So it's really a case of using this course, upskilling, and, using that for projects going forwards.
Great.
So looking forward to working with all you guys.
Great. Well, welcome, Robin. Next, we have Samar.
Hey, folks. My name is Samar Katlagal. I'm based in Cherry Hill. It's in South Jersey. I'm sure like not many of you might have known this. And I work at a specialty hardware retailer in Philly area. It's called Hajoka. Again, I'm sure nobody would have heard that. And my goal for getting into this course is to, have a career path focused on analytics. So I come from a technology background. I've done like traditional business intelligence, but kind of have very minimal exposure to the advanced analytics. That's been the buzzword lately. So that's the reason I'm onto this course.
Well, thanks for sharing. I think you'll definitely get that.
Thank you.
Right. So next we have Sandra.
Hello, everyone. So, okay, I'm Sandra Sorza. I live in Colombia. Currently, I'm working in a credit bureau. It's named TransUnion. For the last couple of years, I have been working as a product owner of the credit scores for Latin America. Currently, I'm moving in a position to work as to transform and grow things in the company, basically to create a link between IT and the product owners. I wanted to start on this course mainly because all my scores are done on R, and I work all the time on analytics and data. And I wanted to have like something as a complement on what I currently do.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Sandra. I was very close to Colombia. Just the other day, I taught a week-long course in Panama, actually. So anyway, so next we have Sasidhar.
Hey, hi, this is Shashidhar. You can just call me Shashi to make it pretty simple. So I live in New York, but work at Stamford, Connecticut. So I do the reverse commute every day. And I work for a bank called Synchrony, and in the digital analytics team. And I've been in analytics field for about almost all of my career of around 7.5 years. And most of my experiences with using SAS and SQL. But I attended a course on R 2 or 3 years ago, but never used it. So I kind of, it's going to be like something new that I'll be learning. And I think that's pretty much about me. And I'm looking forward for the course, really looking into getting into big data and some advanced analytics stuff.
Great, great. Well, welcome, welcome. Next we have Tanu.
Hi, my name is Tanu Kajla. I'm actually I'm speaking from Washington, D.C., but I'm actually from New Jersey. And so anyone who has been on the phone from New Jersey, I'm very familiar with all those locations. I lived in upstate New York for a while, so I currently work and relocated to Washington, D.C. to actually join consulting about 2 years ago. So that's my first foray in consulting. I formerly have been professionally a business analyst in ERP and business intelligence units. So I work closely with Oracle technologies such as Hyperion, specifically in the financial management field. But my passion has always been data analytics, regression analysis. I even did my undergraduate education in economics and regression. So this is actually the next step to kind of bridging the process for ERP business intelligence, and rather than focusing on the technology side and bridging in data and really focusing on creating and incorporating business. That's really where I'm passionate about, and that's why I'm here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Love your enthusiasm. Really great to meet you. And I love that you're from New Jersey. So next we have Yelena.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yelena Kianitsa. I'm currently based in Houston, Texas. I work as a consultant at IHS Markit. If you're not familiar with IHS Markit, is a company that provides information analytics to many industries. I work at the upstream oil and gas practice. My specialty there is primarily business intelligence, market intelligence, and upstream asset valuation. In that, I'm a Excel power user. I use Tableau frequently, but I'm new to programming. I've never had exposure to R in any other language. But with IHS Markit being in a powerhouse of data, there are a lot of opportunities, and I believe that this course and program in general will help me take my career to the next level.
Wonderful. Well, great to meet you, Elena. So I think I got everyone. If I didn't, please raise your hand or speak up. Just want to make sure everybody had a chance to introduce themselves. Obviously, we're not going to do this at every class, but I do like to take the kind of first online meetup just for everybody to get to know each other. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm so impressed by everyone's background and your motivation for being here and your openness to sharing your experience and background. I think those are wonderful things and great characteristics. And this is going to be a fantastic class. And know that this is only the most of maybe 1/3 of the entire MSBA class that you're meeting right now. So you can imagine the rich skill set that's already in this just sample versus the entire class. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's get into it. So what we're going to do is just kind of review the roadmap for the work in this part of the course. And so as all of you hopefully know, and hopefully it's clear, but This course is taught by 2 professors, and I'm one of the professors, and my part comes first, which is R. So the idea is that you learn how to program in R, and then you're able to apply the various statistical models and techniques to data using R as your tool. Okay, so this is why there's a roadmap. And so the roadmap works something like this, like you got access to the course, and somewhere between, March 25th and April 1st, my recommendation is that you complete the first 2 lessons in NYU classes, you attend one of the web meetings, and then you complete assignments 1 and 2. And this is, again, a recommended roadmap. You can wait till the end. You can wait until, I think it's May 17th or something to submit everything, the end of the pre-module period to do that. That's kind of the standard for most of the courses in Module 1. However, why not just get it over with? And as you're learning, submit your work. And as you submit your work, like assignments 1 and 2, you'll get feedback. So the sooner you submit the work, the sooner you'll get feedback and you'll know how you're doing. And so that's the whole idea of this part of the course. It's completely meant to be supportive of your learning of coding. And that's why we have these online meetups, and that's why we have this type of schedule. Since this is kind of, meant to be a flexible program, that's why we allow you to submit everything at the end of the pre-module. But I think it's a better mode to kind of do things more frequently rather than save everything to the end. Generally, that's just a better way to learn. And especially with coding, this keeps you kind of practicing every week. So you get to practice for a few weeks, learning R, understanding it, asking your questions. And then as soon as, you start attending Peter's meetups, Professor Lochner's meetups on statistics, you already have a great fluency. So that's really the goal here. Any questions on this? All right. So what we're going to do today is work on, maybe 1 or 2 practice exercises, but this will be preceded by a mini lecture. So I'll give a brief introduction to R, and then I would suggest that if you have R and RStudio installed, that you open that up, and you also note the in the materials section, which I'm mousing over right here, that there's a link to exercise 1.2 and 2.2. We will try to get as far as we can in these exercises today. And these are meant to be exercises just for you to practice. All right. And the idea is to kind of work side by side with the exercise. This is not the right screenshot of the exercise, but the exercise is the one that I showed before. So I'll just kind of bring that up. Hopefully that if you've gone through the lessons part of the NYU classes, you'll notice that there's this website here, which is a website that I built for this course called R Fundamentals, and it's organized around the lessons. So when I talk about sessions or lessons like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, these are the 6 you'll be working on. There are other ones here that we will address in class, but not as part of the pre-module. And so we're in this section getting started with R. So the idea is that you reviewed the introduction here, you have a sense of what R is, you read my license, so you're not going to share this link with everybody in your company. And then you can go ahead and click on exercise 1 and work through it. And in exercise 1, so say you work through this and you want to see the solution, I do a verbal code walkthrough where I give you the answer. So this is your chance to kind of like try it on your own. If you get stuck, you can actually see me walk through the answer. In class today, we'll go through exercise 1.2, which I do not give you the answer, but we will work through it together in class, and you'll give me the answers. And then in assignment 1, which is the first assignment that you should do, I have several questions for you to answer, and that's what you'll submit on NYU classes. Any questions on that, or how to do that, logistics, sequence, anything confusing? Please raise those questions.
Hey, just checking in terms of grading. So if we submit early and we get feedback, and we make the changes, it's effectively graded at the end of the submission period.
Yeah, we're not going to probably double grade because that You could do the math on that. That will be 6
Yep.
assignments per 70 people, and then regrading that. It will probably be never ending. So the idea is that you just, everybody generally, if you go through the tutorial, you will do well. It's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to be reinforcing.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
That's a very good question. Yeah, so you submit once. So be sure, but don't be too cautious. I mean, if you think you have the right answers, you should just submit them, and look for that feedback. And it's also like another checkbox that you've completed like one of the assignments. I'm just going to go real quick to NYU classes. This is the NYU classes site. If you go to lessons here, it will load. It says material for the R section of the course. Hopefully this is clear. There's an overview page that tells you how to install R and RStudio. And then there are all the different, what we call lectures or lessons. And you need to complete all 6. So you go to lecture 1, and there's a video with a warm up. And this material is also on the other site, but just it's organized in a way for you to know step by step. Then you complete the tutorial, which is what we just looked at from here. And the tutorial begins with getting started with R. It follows this agenda. What is R? Installing R, RStudio overview, working in the console, different types of operators. We'll talk about these things today as well. But you can see there's even a walkthrough video here. And the idea is to follow the tutorial. And anytime in the tutorial, I'll just scroll down a little bit, where I say try it, type 32 plus 78. You should actually try it, because this is all meant for you to have the hands-on experience. So Ricky, you're saying, is there a preference? For the first assignment, since we're just dealing with working in the console, you can just submit it as like a Word doc or something. As we go on, there will be more specifics about my preference in terms of the format. I'll say, please submit it as a .rmd file, as an example. I hope that answers your question. Good. All right. So again, following along with the tutorial, you should have RStudio open and be reading the tutorial at the same time. Some shortcuts. So you can just look at this as a one-page view and you can print it out. You can look at this as a PDF and wait for it to load, and you will get the entire PDF of everything. So if you work better with it being on paper and you don't want to look at 2 screens at once, just print it out, or put this on your other screen, because many of you probably have computers and have multiple screens. So this is a good use of that as well. So just so you know, it doesn't include the video, of course, because this is a PDF file. And I just got to that by going to the PDF here. Okay. So hopefully this will be flexible for your work style. And I will go back to my PowerPoint here. All right. So, and then the idea is that when I ask you questions about code, I'll have my RStudio screen up, and you should have your RStudio screen up, which looks something like this, and your GoToTraining screen. And then in the text chat, just type your code, literally cut and paste it, just so we can all share different ways that we solve problems. Okay, and problems are kind of the way that we think about coding in this course, right? So it might be a problem or a question that I ask, and what's the way that we can answer that question with code. So my overview of the command line interface in R. So in R, we use something called RStudio, and RStudio includes the basic console window that's included in just the basic installation of R. These 2 things are very easy to install if you haven't done it already. First, you install something called R, and then you install something called RStudio. And I provided the links for you. You have to do it in that order or it won't work, quite simply. If you've been trying to install like Python and create your own environment, those things can be very complex. R and RStudio are pretty simple installations. They're just like installing like Microsoft Word, essentially. So don't be nervous about doing that if you are. And so just to tell you a little bit about the Windows. So you see this greater than sign, and I just kind of blew it up for you. This is what we call the command prompt. So we type our commands at the command prompt. And this window that we're looking at is known as the console window. This is where we just use R as a calculator. So we can type in things like 2 + 2 and just press enter and get a result. Okay, and so we start by learning a programming language in most programming languages by just doing some basic computations just to be familiar. So the idea from like a learning point of view is that we build on like how you already know how to use a calculator, right? So there's an assumption that you already know how to use a calculator and like what functions are and the basic operators. And then we look at how functions and basic operators work in a coding language, which are going to be way different, right? And so that's how I approach teaching this subject. And there are other windows here, and you will learn what they are and you will use them. So this window up here that I'm mousing over, this is where you can write what we call scripts or programs. And so this is where we get to kind of like save the code we write. We're in the console window, we're really just writing code in real time, and then we never are able to kind of save that code we wrote. So we feel like we're probably cutting and pasting it from somewhere else. And it's very vulnerable to like typos and things like that, because you kind of just enter, your text in, whatever your code is, and press enter. This window here shows me different variables that are in data sets that I'm using in my what's called global environment. And then down here where I can see my visuals. Okay. So these 4 quadrants make up the RStudio interface. We're just going to be working in the console quadrant for today. And then the next session, we'll start working in the scripting console. And then the next session, we'll start working in the visualization one. So you will go through all of them. This one up here, I will show you how to use also in the second session. And you also see it in the tutorial. It allows us to use a button to import data and also see how that data has changed as we manipulate it in the R environment. So R is really centered on being a tool for data. In addition to, when we think of like what traditional like programming or coding, we can do all the things that you can do in traditional programming languages, iteration, loops, conditionals, those types of things. But it's centered on working with data and data being the central thing that we manipulate. So just to kind of back up, so this greater than sign, this is known as the, I'm waiting for an answer when I kind of pause like that. So this is known as the command prompt. Okay, so anytime you see this, when I reference it, it just means that like type in 3 + 2 and press enter, and then the result will be 5. Type in 100 divided by 5. So we can see that this is what we call the input, and this is the output. Input, output, input, output. If you're doing this at the command or the console window. Okay, so my question to you is, what does this, what do these square brackets in 1 mean? Is that the output? Does anybody know what that means?
That references the, it's line 1.
Yeah, it's line 1 of, yes, of the output. So I think we got like 3 answers here, right? You said something, Sasidar said something, and Kevin, right? So it's the line number of the output. So let's say I had, I was like, wanted to like view all the rows in my data set. And then when I did that, my output was like, 10 lines. So it would say output, I would see the values for line 1, 2, 3, 4 through 10, and it would be numbered as such. Great. So that's important. So don't let that distract you, but that just shows you, and when we're doing simple things like addition or just simple calculations, there's typically just 1 line of output. But this is how this is how we read that. And so here it's just about understanding the language of input and output. Second concept I want to introduce you to are what we call operators. And these are things that, of course, you're familiar with in terms of the addition, subtraction, and even division operator. But you'll notice that, like, in R, we don't use the X, we use an asterisk for multiplication. This is probably very similar to, right, Excel. We use the caret for powers or exponents. And another kind of special one that we use for the remainder from division is what's called the modulus. And that's the double percent sign. So these are operators that we can use with, obviously a certain type of data. And that type of data is called numeric data. So we can only do math on numeric data. And so those coders in the class will be like, well, I use the plus sign for other things. Yes, and so it does have a different context at times. But we can think of these operators here as ones that work on data that is of type numeric. And we'll start talking a little bit about what I call data types. So data can be of many different types. Picture yourself looking at an Excel spreadsheet and all those different columns. Sometimes in the columns you see numbers, sometimes you see words. And those data types we will discuss in detail. I hear somebody with their mic on. Just check your mic if you don't mind. Thank you. All right, so moving on to variables and assignment. So in R, this is, if you're a coder already, this is going to be one of the biggest changes you're going to have to make in your life. So the assignment, I hope there's somebody laughing. You could just laugh in the text chat just to kind of amuse me. But that this is the assignment operator in R. Okay, it's not the equal sign, but to basically what we're doing is we've created some variable x, okay, x, and we're assigning it a value of 3. So the value of 3 is referenced in the variable x. That's kind of how we read that, okay? And we use variables because when our data changes, we like to be able to update it rather than have what we call hard-coded values in our code. Okay, so this is basically simply just saying, this is the name of the variable. This is what we call the assignment operator. So I introduced you to other operators, right? Arithmetic operators. Now I'm introducing you to an operator called the assignment operator, which is basically like a less than sign and the minus sign together, okay, makes the assignment operator. And then the last thing that I'm showing here is the value we want to store or reference in the variable. Questions so far? Let me know too. You can even send me a private chat if I'm going too fast, too slow. All those things are helpful. We can also in R use the equal sign. It's not standard, and it's generally in the R community we want to use the operator that I showed you before, this assignment operator. But we can also use the equal sign. And so this statement is not saying that x literally equals 3. It's saying that this is the name of the variable. And that the value of 3 is referenced in the variable x. So there's a good question here. Is there a difference between how the assignment and, okay, so you're looking at the logical operators. Yes, I'll get into logical operators. So if we're looking in the text chat, Anu has some questions about logical operators, which is like that ampersand, and he's also referencing some assignment operators. There is not necessarily negative consequences of using the equals. The reason why I'm going to stress that you use the other type of operator is when you look at the documentation around R code, hardly anybody uses the equal sign. So I really want you to get familiar with using the other assignment, the other assignment operator. Okay, so now you try it. You have your console window open. Okay, and then I'm giving this to you almost like a word problem, like assign the value of 42 to a variable named y. And when you've done that, type your answer like Ricky did in the text chat. So you probably have something like this. I'm getting some private ones too. Thank you. Yeah, and definitely like don't be afraid that somebody else put the answer and just add your answer. I just want to see, it's kind of like a signal of your participation. I like what Alex did. So he also printed out the value referenced in y, right? So you can do that by at the command prompt just typing y, and then it should return the value 42. Good. And so now you're getting the interaction. You're able to, you just did variable assignment, and you also were able to print out some output, right? So you had some input, output. And you notice when you did that assignment, when we did this previous one, you press enter, nothing happened, right? Because all you did was assign the value of 42 to y. But And that's all you told R to do. Nothing was supposed to happen. So if you got if you did that and nothing happened, no error message, you did it right. And then you check by actually typing Y at the command prompt. So further examples. So like, let's take Y again. So Y we know now in our mind. So let's pretend our mind is a buffer, has a value of 42, and we're adding 2 to it. So when we do this, we'll get an output of 42, right? Because we're just completing a simple arithmetic. And then we're raising it to the second power, and obviously we can get the result of that. So thinking about how to, use variables together with the arithmetic operators we just learned, okay? And we can also do something called update a variable. So we start by we already assigned, our variable Y to the value of 42 in the first example. But let's say we want to subtract 1 from it. So how we read this is we reread it on the right side of the assignment operator first. Y minus 1. And so we know that's 42. So 42 minus 1. And then the result of that, we're going to store back in Y. This is called variable reassignment. And so just as it's important for you to know literally the syntax, exactly how to write it, it's equally as important for you to know how to describe what's happening. So what's happening on the second line here is variable reassignment. Okay, so we just updated the value of Y. If we print that out, we'll get a value of 41. Notice I used a function here. I didn't introduce this to you, but I could just simply, at the command prompt, type Y, get the output of 41. Or I could use a function called print, pass in, literally this is what it's called, pass in a variable or a value, and then it would print out, okay, as output. Questions on this? Okay, so this is a problem for you. Assign a value of 42 to a variable Y and then assign that value to X. When you have the answer, just type in the text chat. Great. So something like that is probably what most people got. You already did the first line before, so the last one is sufficient. Great. Now, if I closed RStudio down and I just type this line, assign the value of Y to X, I would probably get an error. All right, because that value would no longer be stored in memory. Okay, so this is something important to consider. When we work at command line, what we do is only kind of like persistent for the session that we're working in. As soon as we close RStudio down, sometimes it allows us to save our workspace. You might have seen that. Yep, so Bill found that. So that's something to do and experience. And now know why that's happening. Good. Basics on data types and structures. This is the fun part. So every data, all data have a type. And what I mean by type is, you can think of things like words and numbers, right? Those are types. But we have special ways to describe words and numbers and other special ones like Boolean variables in R. So by default, those X and Y variables you created today are all going to be of type numeric. Okay, they're not going to be an integer, they're not going to be a float, and they're not going to be an integer vector, what's shown here as examples. They're just what's called from the numeric class. Can you make them an integer specifically? Sure. Can you make them a float? Why not? But as default, R assigns a type. Okay, you don't have to assign the type. You don't have to say something like int x equals 42, which is what you might do in like Java or something like that. Okay, so integers represent whole numbers, whole positive or negative numbers. Floats are positive or negative decimals. An integer vector. This is a array or literally a vector for those of you really familiar with Excel, this is one column of data. That's all the same type, all integers, all positive or negative numbers. Okay, that's what an integer vector is. You'll hear this word vector. Don't be afraid of the word vector. It just means basically like a column. And everything in a vector needs to be of the same type. Next, we have other types of data types. Boolean is one. We use that to, we use logical operators. We heard, I think, Anu mention like the AND operator. I'll just type it here. This is an example of a logical operator. You know, you might ask a question, something like, you know, X and Y equal, you know, 42. As a statement you might write just to test whether that statement is true or false. So Boolean data types return values that are either true or false. So you can say if you assign a value X, you said something, I'll type in the text chat right now. I won't call it X. Why don't I just call it A? If I did this, A would automatically be of type Boolean. Okay, anytime you use that reserved word, okay, true or false. If you had in the text chat, I'll just write something else. If I say something like A is, you know, I'll just say my name. This is an example of a character, or what we call in other programming languages a string. Anything with double quotes around it that are words. Numbers can have double quotes around them, but they'll be considered a character. Anything that's a character, guess what? You can't use those arithmetic operators, plus, minus, division, all that stuff. Okay, that's why we care about data types, and that's why we interrogate our data to figure out the data types so we can use the right functions or methods to operate on that data. That makes sense so far? I like double quotes. For consistency. All right, and then we have something called a character vector. So this is when we have more than one variable. So we're thinking again like of a column in Excel, like a single column, all data of the same type. Here's a character vector where you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And to create a vector, we use this like C function, which I will get to. All right. Just a few other things I want to go over. These are different types of data types, okay, that you will be working with in this class, every single one of them. We could check to see if our data is of a certain type, and these functions will return a value of what? Does anybody know? If you said something like is numeric and you passed in that variable X you created before, what do you get? Yes, Bill, backticks are separate.
The ASCII value.
All right, so test that out, right? And so, you know, if I did this kind of like live for you, so I'm in my console window here and I did this, it should return true because it is true. This is a numeric variable. And if I want to, so I kind of just switched gears here, just showing you live. And so functions, you know, if I said something like, we go back to the slide presentation, and I say something like is character, and I pass in X, what is it going to give me? Right. Okay, and that's where you see the power of Boolean variables, and Boolean. This is returning a value that's of type Boolean. Case sensitive, yes, absolutely. Good. So I hope this is fun, kind of trying these things out. Try these out. The worst you can get is an error message. Okay, and then you have functions to create cast a variable. We will get to this, but guess what? We can actually convert a variable from one type to the other, because sometimes we need to do that. Okay, sometimes we have something that looks like X equals 2. Okay, assigning the value of 2 to X, but that has double quotes around it. I'm just typing this in the text chat. Now, if I wanted to do math on this, I couldn't. I would have to change it to a variable of type numeric. So to do that, I do something like, I'm just typing this in the text chat. All right, and what that will do is recast that variable to the right data type. Any questions on that? All right. So let's just like look at it like this piece of code here. So again, this is we're using X again, that variable that you created a while ago that maybe has a value of 42 assigned to it. So if I say class X, it's going to tell me the data type of it. So class tells me the data type. If you ever want to know the data type of your variable, type in the word class and pass in the name of your variable. Yes, you know why you have that error? Oh, Bill, you missed one thing. You forgot to do variable reassignment. You have to reassign on line 2. You have to say X is assigned to as.numeric, pass in X.
How do you do that one again? Can you say that one more time, please?
Yeah. So I have it right here. And if you scroll up in the text chat, I'll paste it in. This is what I mean. We didn't update the variable when we used that function. Okay, so we need to make sure we update that variable. That variable has is double quotes with number 2 around it. We want to make sure that we change that. Okay, so here we're going class X. We can find out the variable, the data type. Here we're creating a new variable called Z, assigning it the value of 1.2. We're checking the class of that. By default, it's going to be a numeric. On this line highlighted here, we're assigning a character string, book, the word book in double quotes, to the value of B. We type the letter B, and it returns, of course, what's referenced in that variable. And then we can find out what variable type or data type it is. It's of type character. Good. Questions on this part? Again, let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow. Okay. It's good to slow down and know and think about every line of code that you're writing and what it's actually doing. And what I'm giving you here are some ways just to check, even though you know that X might be a numeric, just check to see if it is, and just get in the habit of using some of these different functions and making sure you really understand your data. Because if you think about it, you're working with big data, you import a huge data set, you're not looking at every value. So you may need to understand how to interrogate that data and the types of questions to ask. And a type of question you would ask is, hey, what's the class of that data, of that value? The class meaning the data type. Okay. Other things that you may want to do, and you see lots of examples in the documentation, are about creating a vector. So a vector, explained before, is, yes, there's a date type, Krishna. A vector is simply like a column in Excel. So even though it's written kind of horizontally, you can think about these as cells in Excel, separated by a comma. Okay, so value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4, value 5, value 6. Okay, now I started counting at 1. Here, in almost any other programming language, you start counting at 0. So just something to know. I have this in all of the materials I've written, but similar, but you'll notice that the structure of them are a little bit differently, but Tanya, they're similar to arrays. So this is position 1, Tanya, and this is position 2. And it says a value of 1, the value of 2. And this is position 6, okay, not position 5, which if you started counting at 0, this would be position 5 in Java. Okay, so how we create basically a vector is we use this function called C for combine. Okay, C, and then we pass in are numbers, 6 values. You can pass on any ones you want, and then we're assigning that to x. You could try this out, and then we're adding 2 to x. And so this is pretty cool. So it looks like simple addition, but now we're adding 2 to every number in our vector. Pretty efficient, right? You can see that 2 plus 1 is 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, and so on. Questions on this? So I'm going to ask you to create one. Get comfortable with vectors. Create a vector called months with the integers 1 through 12. And then I want you to go ahead and square that vector. When you have the answer, type it in the chat. Look at this. There's different ways that people are doing it. I love this. This is why we share our code. So Kevin did it very differently than Anand did it. And Jeremy did it very similar to how Kevin did it, if not exactly. Oh, somebody's using the equals assignment operator. That's okay. Nice. Yeah, definitely scroll through the chat and see how other people have solved this. I'll show on my screen. So 2 ways to do this. The first way is to literally type in 1 through 12, separated by commas, within the parentheses as your values for your vector. So you have 12 values named 1 through 12 respectively, and we use the C function here to say that we're going to combine these into a vector, and then we're going to assign that to a variable called months. What's going to be the type of that? Months. Numeric, yeah. And how can we prove it? Ah, so you're getting integer, not numeric. Some people are getting numeric. So this is something to note. Both are right. Good. So check that out. And then the next thing, this is another way that you can easily assign the values to months. You can just say 1 through, which is using the colon, 12. So these values will then be assigned to months to create a vector. It's a shortcut, okay? And there's various ways you could do this. And then you go ahead in any case and then square that. Both ends are inclusive. Yes, good question, Alex. All right, so now create a vector called days with the days Monday through Wednesday. And then type your answer in. We have 1 minute remaining of our formal time together. Yeah, uh-oh. I see, Christopher, you took a shortcut. MTW. No, I'm just kidding, though. Good. Right. I know, typing it out is terrible, right? So you type it out, make sure you put double quotes around the days. Otherwise, you probably would be getting an error. That's the reason why I'm having you do this, okay? And then you could check the class of that. You should get something called like a character. Good. Very nice, very nice. Great work. Thank you for your contributions. So I just want to summarize kind of some of the things that we talked about. We talked about functions a lot without explicitly talking about them. So can somebody just in the text chat list some of the functions that we used? Print, great. Class, you probably did in lesson. Absolute value, square root. We probably use that in class in the lessons. Yes. And is numeric, very good, very good. And we also used one called C, right? And is a logical operator. As character, that's one. Is numeric, that's one. Is or as character, yes. Those are two separate ones. Good. So functions allow us to kind of, operate on some data, some values, not always data. And here are just some examples of other functions, right? The square root one, taking the mean of a set of values, the changing a character string to uppercase. These are just C binds, very nice, right? Column combined. So what I like you to, since you have RStudio open and maybe you have a few minutes after this class, I would encourage you to practice with exercise 1.2, which is available here. You have it also in the materials. And it's asking you to kind of do some simple things. Compute the following, round the square root of 50 to the 4th decimal, and then it gives you a few other tasks. And I really encourage you to do this and just to kind of like continue practicing and reinforce all the things that we talked about today. But I want to just pause and open this up for questions because we are at time and I am sensitive that you are probably working and doing other things in addition to going to school. So are there questions? Was this useful to you? All right. And because, like I said, this class is designed for people who are just starting to learn programming for the first time or are for the first time, or people that have been coding for a long time, that's why I have these extra exercises here, 1.2 and 2.2. So for every lesson, there's 2 practice exercises. It's always labeled 1.2 and 1.1 and 1.2. So you always have opportunities to do more. And as we move on, you'll probably figure out, pretty efficient ways to do it that we don't necessarily go over, but you might be motivated to, learn things around iteration and loops and conditionals and the like, things that we'll learn in class. So please keep in touch. And I see a question from Ricardo. Do you have a recommended app for practicing little exercises like this? Oh, is there a dictionary out there with all these functions? Okay. I don't really have a mobile app. It's like an interesting, I kind of gave you a pretty long list of functions that you can look at. As you go on in the course, you will be having your repertoire of functions will like increase by like 10 or 15 every time. Are there drills, etc.? Well, I think it's like practicing doing the exercises. The R for Data Science book is one that you can pick up and practice along with those exercises if you feel like this isn't enough. But I don't know of any. Actually, you know what there is, Ricky? I'm sorry. There's totally there's a online class that Google offers that's for R that I think just has like a bunch of drills and things like that. So that's one that you might want to look up. But I don't know anything about mobile. It might be mobile because it's Google, right? Yeah. You're welcome. And I love that people want to do more. That's amazing. So keep the questions coming. And what I'm going to do right now is just stop the recording for anybody that wants to listen to this after. So let me just stop.